25 Cleveland Guardians season preview. Flash Focus coming at you. I'm Deej. This is my brother Smokey. What's up, Smokey?
Hey, how you doing, DJ?
Good. Excited for baseball. How about you?
Oh yeah, very excited.
All right. So today's Wednesday and opening day is tomorrow. So let's take a look at this lineup. So hitting leadoff in left field, we got Stephen Kwan. He's amazing. We're so lucky to have him. He's just the best. Kwan is he could be like 5 WAR, maybe more. Man, just what do you think about Stephen Kwan hitting leadoff?
I love him in the leadoff spot. He looks great. He looks well tuned. He's ready to rock and roll.
Man, definitely one of our greatest strengths. Aside from Jose Ramirez, Jose is our superstar. We love him. He's a future slam dunk, first ballot Hall of Fame third baseman. Another 5, 7, 8 WAR guy. Could this be the year he wins the MVP? Maybe.
I hope so. He told a reporter he's going to shoot for 100 home runs and 100 steals today. So hopefully he comes close.
A lofty goal. All right, now after that we got Kyle Manzardo. So Manzardo came over in the Aaron Savali trade last year. Looks like they're gonna have him at DH, which kind of sucks because he's only 24. But he looked great last year, in kind of small doses. He's got the ability to be a really complete hitter. I could see him maybe being like Shin-Soo Choo, one of those guys that can hit like 20, 25 homers, a bunch of doubles, good on base. Just kind of a well-rounded hitter. What do you think of Manzardo?
I think he's a great hitter. He leads the Guardians in home runs this spring with 4. He's starting to develop more power. You saw how he came up the first time around and he was hitting doubles last year, and then he came back up and started popping dingers. And he looked really great in the postseason, and obviously in spring training, he's hit a bunch of dingers already. I think he could maybe be a 30 home run guy, and he'll get some time at first. He'll spell Carlos Santana a little bit. Santana's no spring chicken.
Yeah. Now Santana won the Gold Glove last year, so it could be a little difficult to justify resting him too much. But he's 39, so Santana looks like he's on pace to have a kind of a lateral move from Josh Naylor. I think they're going to be very similar hitters. Obviously, Santana's 39, and Naylor's probably going to improve because he's 27, 28. But I could really see Santana putting up some like really good old man strength, and maybe hitting 25 dingers and having a good on base percentage and providing slick fielding at first.
I feel like as the rest of the lineup goes, Santana's season will go. If there's someone hitting behind him that hits a lot of home runs and they make it really difficult for the pitcher to pitch around him and they have to throw him strikes, Santana's going to have a great season. I feel like Manzardo and Nolan Jones and John Kenzie Noel are going to have really great years. I think he's going to get a lot of really good pitches to hit, and I think he's gonna do really well this year. At least 20 plus dingers.
Yeah, I'm optimistic we can get just Carlos coming home, and I think he can put it all together. All right, next we got Lane Thomas. So Lane is he's a kind of a frustrating player. He's great at a lot of things, but he's just got a lot of holes in his game. He's so fast. He's one of the fastest guys in the league. He hit 28 homers a couple years ago, so he's a potential 30-30 guy. But advanced stats doesn't like his defense despite his speed. I guess he doesn't come off as having good route instincts or something, and he cannot hit right-handed pitching to save his life. So he'll probably get to hit every day, but if we could platoon him at least somewhat and take some of the bad, versus righty at bats out of his hands, I think it would be better for the team. What do you think about Lane?
I like him. And the thing about Lane Thomas is he is in a contract year. There is that extra bit of motivation Again, he's got that 30-30 potential. I don't think he'll do it, but I do think he's going to put together a very good year. He's trying to get that big contract.
Yeah, well, we'll see. He's certainly a good player, and I think he'll really help this team a whole lot for sure. All right, hitting sixth is recently acquired Nolan Jones. So Nolan's kind of he's a big lefty, 6'5". He hit 20 some dingers in Colorado a couple of years ago. He's got the potential to be a really good, power bat, maybe a platoon guy, not playing every day. Fangraphs thinks he'll play in about 100 games. I'll take the over on that 12 homers they're predicting for him, though. I think he can hit 20 this year. And he's it's good to have him back. We traded him to the Rockies a couple years ago and just got him back. I feel pretty good about him, especially in a platoon with Jhonkensy Noel and Wright. What do you think about Nojo?
I think the jury's out. I feel like he is an upgrade offensively over Will Brennan. Defensively, he's more limited. He has played center field. I'm not sure how I feel about him in center field. He's serviceable in right field. I think he's some pretty serious pop. That big season he had 2 years ago, he had a really high batting average on balls in play. So the regression was expected, but I didn't expect him to regress as much as he did. I think between him and Jhonkensy Noel, we can really expect a minimum of 30 dingers out of right field.
Yeah, they certainly have the potential to do that, or even more. Noel could hit 30 all by himself, and, Nolan's hit like 20, 25 a couple of years ago. So, I mean, anything can happen. And, if one of them starts popping off, we'll make room for him. All right, then we got Bo Naylor, the catcher. So Bo he's very young. He just turned 25. He's a very good defensive catcher. He's got some pop. He hit 13 dingers last year. Fangraphs likes him a lot. They give him 3 WAR. He could be a average hitter, which is quite good for a catcher. And his glove's improving, so I think he has a lot of upside. The only thing to really worry about is maybe he'll, like we traded his brother Josh away, but they're all professionals. I don't think that'll matter too much. What do you think about Bo?
I think he's going to continue to improve. He had that one game in spring training where he hit 2 home runs. They haven't really been playing the whole game yet, and that was impressive. I feel like this is the year he takes another step forward. He's comfortable. He's had a full season under his belt. He knows what to expect. He's got a great mentor in Austin Hedges. I feel like Bo Naylor, you can expect 20 dingers and a 240 batting average out of him.
Yep, I see good things. All right, then we got Gabriel Arias. So he's been very frustrating. He's just as young as Bo. He just turned 25. He's a kid. We've got a lot of youngsters, but he's out of options. He's gotten a lot of chances to stick somewhere, and he just has not been able to do it. He's kind of shown the ability to succeed at almost everything except just that pesky batting average. You just can't get on base or hit for average. And if he doesn't do it by like mid-May, that might be it. But, we'll give him a shot. He'll be the everyday second baseman. And, show us what you can do. I don't know. What do you think about Arias?
I feel like he's elite defensively.
Yeah.
Maybe not quite elite.
Nobody is.
Definitely really good. I watched him make some really good plays in spring training. He's got one of the best arms in the majors.
Yeah, but playing second base.
He's got a plus arm. I feel like he can make a lot of plays, and I feel like we won't suffer much of a fall off defensively. And honestly, the past couple years, Hemi wasn't that great offensively either. I feel like he may surprise us. I'm expecting 12 dingers and really good defense out of him, and probably not so impressive 220 batting average. But I think we see the big guy, Travis Bazzana. I think we see him later in the year, and I think Arias holds down the fort.
Well, I would take a hold down the fort because this is definitely our weakest position. All right, then hitting last, we got shortstop Brian Rucchio. He is another defensive whiz. Made a lot of mental mistakes last year, but he's got all the physical skills. And, he's a kid, just turned 24. Some 8 homers last year. A little pop for a shortstop. Looked great in the playoffs. Fangraphs has him at, almost 3 WAR. I would take an average bat in his glove at the 8-9 slot, and shortstop any day. I think Brian Rucchio's got a pretty high floor. I mean, like, at worst, he'll be a really good fielder and a middling hitter, which averages out to pretty good. So I'm pretty optimistic. And I could see him popping off and becoming a great player, too. The organization thinks very highly of him. What do you think?
I think he's going to be a really great player this year. He looked great in the playoffs. He looks great so far in spring training. He got some power late in the year, and he looked really good late in the year. I think he could surprise. I think he could swipe 15 bags and hit 15 dingers, and I think he could really improve defensively. I think he just had some jitters, so I really like him.
Yeah. All right, and then, we don't have to go through the whole bench, but, Austin Hedges will be the backup catcher. Noel is definitely a guy I'm really excited about. He hit that famous homer in the ALCS last year, and wasn't a walk-off, but I think we were down 2, and he tied it up with 2 outs, and, could have put us down 3-0, just been the nail in the coffin, and that's just like an instant classic, playoff homer for, in Cleveland history. And he's just like just a really exciting young power hitter, and you want him to become David Ortiz or something, and you have to measure your expectations. But he's so exciting. He's only 23, just shows a lot of promise. So I definitely have high hopes for him. Although he's Fangraphs doesn't expect him to be anything but a bit player. But what do you think Noel will do this year?
I 100% disagree with Fangraphs. I feel like John Kenzie Noel is going to be our biggest superstar. He's going to take a major step forward this year. I watched him in spring training. He's keeping his hands back. He wasn't striking out in that last game. He just looked great. He's hitting singles. He's spraying the ball. And he has light tower power. Very impressive ball player.
Yeah, and
I think he could hit 20 home runs on his own and platoon with Nolan Jones.
Yeah, and he just has such a infectious joy for the game. He's having such a good time. He's working really hard. He wants to be great. And if you take his power and his attitude, I think he has all the tools for success. All right, and then we got Daniel Schneemann, utility infielder. He'll play some outfield. And then they think Jonathan Rodriguez. Rodriguez is another intriguing guy. He had 29 homers at AAA. So, and, he looked great numbers-wise. I'm not sure why he isn't...
He's a AAA MVP.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. Fangraphs doesn't think he'll play much, but he's going to have to hit his way into this lineup because there's a lot of everyday Eddies in here, so... He's going to have to rely on an injury or just really prove he belongs. All right, let's take a look at the pitching staff now. So the ace, Tanner Bybee, recently locked up to a long-term extension. So, man, just what can we even say about Tanner? He's just been the eye of the hurricane in our, we've had such bad luck in the rotation the last couple of years, but Tanner's just been there. Just like a big oak tree, just you can rely on this guy. Just great guy, great pitcher. He's our ace. He's probably not quite Cy Young good, but he's definitely a very good starting pitcher, and I think he, could be a 3-4 WAR type of guy. And he's definitely any team would take him. What do you think about Tanner?
I think he's ready to take another step forward this year. He got his first taste of the playoffs last year. I think he's excited. Last year was his first full season. He kind of got worn out at points, and he kind of knows what to expect and how to pace himself. And I think he's actually going to be a top 10 candidate in the Cy Young voting.
Wow. Well, we'll see. I would love that. Now, unfortunately, after Bybee, it gets a little iffy. There's a lot of guys with upside, but none of these guys have ever really had a full good season in their career. So number 2 is Gavin Williams. He's a guy I like a lot. I think he looks great. They call him Big Rig, 6'6", 250. Just like I could see this guy just striking out 200, 250 within a couple years. He's 25, so he's ready to be hit the prime time. Fangraphs thinks he'll be about average, which I think is a fair guesstimate for a guy of his age, but he could totally pop off and be even better than that. Thoughts on Gavin, Smokey?
His fastball's already at 99 miles an hour at this point in the spring. I mean, pitchers that pitch like that, Paul Skeens, not many people consistently throw that hard as a starter. He looked really good in spring training. He hasn't had a full season, so we'll kind of hold our thoughts on how great he'll be. Have to watch him a little bit and see how he progresses.
But yeah, certainly very excited about him, and he's another guy with a huge upside. All right, then after that, my unflagging optimism starts to flag. So third, we got Luis Ortiz. Didn't know much about him until we picked him up. He has not pitched a full season in the starting rotation yet. He's 26. He's the guy that we got for Andres Jimenez. So you'd like to think he's going to be good, and I hope he is, and a lot of people seem to think he will be. But he struggled in spring training. Fangraphs isn't predicting anything special from this guy. So I think he's got a lot of, negative preconceived notions to overcome. What do you think about Ortiz?
He did have a rough spring, and there were times when I'm like, okay, I see what they're talking about. He throws 5 different pitches, and it takes a while to fine-tune those 5 pitches. He had a 3.24 ERA last year. That's really impressive. He's going to be hard-pressed to repeat that, but I mean, with this bullpen coming up, if you can keep your ERA in the 3s, you will do really well this year.
Yeah, just one thing that scares me about this guy is look over here at his ERA and his FIP. Last year, 3.32 ERA, but 4.25 FIP. If you're not familiar with FIP, usually the next year's ERA tends to look more like last year's FIP than last year's ERA if they're far apart. So history would suggest that he would have a higher ERA, closer to 4, but he's a year older. He's got the Cleveland pitching factory and their coaches on him, and the fact that we got him for Andres really means that the club thinks very highly of him. So hopefully he proves us wrong. All right, and then after that we got Ben Lively. So Lively, just a scrap heap signing last year. Just a journeyman. I think he pitched with the Reds and the Phillies, and might have been in Korea or something a few years ago. And then he kind of came out of nowhere and had a 3.80 ERA, 150 innings last year. And Fangraphs is kind of predicting more of the same, maybe some regression. Another guy with a big ERA FIP disparity, but he was pretty durable through a lot of innings, and he's the 4th starter. He'd be a 4th or 5th on most teams, but he's a question mark. He's 33. Who knows? What do you see out of Ben Lively this year?
I think he threw the most innings he's ever thrown last year. Probably. And that's kind of right. And you could tell he hit the wall, and you could almost feel him hit the wall. And at this point, we're kind of on a schedule. We've got a couple guys coming back right around the trade deadline, and John Means and Shane Bieber.
Yep.
So we just kind of need to have him do the same thing he did last year, and those guys can hopefully say, "We'll take it from here."
Yeah, here's hoping. I mean, those guys could be huge if they come back healthy, but just coming off Tommy John, both of them, I think, and anything could happen. All right, fifth starter, we got Logan Allen. So Logan looked pretty good in 23, but last year he just, I don't know what was going on. His ERA was almost 6. He just felt like, I don't know if he was tipping his pitches or what, but just everybody was just hitting him so hard. And but he looked great in spring training, and he was kind of a surprise to make the rotation. I think he was kind of written off, but he did a great job, and hopefully he just figured out what he was doing wrong. And I like him a lot. If he can, like Logan at his best case scenario is like a pretty solid number 4 or 5, and maybe even better. He's still very young, and he can totally come back. But I don't hate him as a guy in the rotation, but he certainly has a lot to prove with that season he had last year. That like well below average WAR, and man, that ERA and FIP were just up in the high 5s, and man, hopefully he's figured it out though. What do you see out of Logie?
I feel Logan Allen, he gives up a lot of home runs, and he walked a lot more people last year. I think his whip was over 1.5. I mean, that's not acceptable. And he's a nibbler. He's a control guy. He uses control. He hits the corners. I watched him a few times last year, and he was definitely getting too much of the strike zone. And, a guy that throws in the low 90s, that gets too much of the strike zone, he gets lit up. That's what happens. And this spring, he looks good. He's nibbling. He's hitting his spots. If he can come into the season and do more of the same, walk a few less people and give up a few less dingers and get into the 4s, let the bullpen take it from there. He'll be okay. If he doesn't do that, he won't.
Yep, well said. All right, and then we don't need to go into every relief pitcher here. Let's just kind of take a look. So Emmanuel Clase could have won the Cy Young Award last year. He had one of the best closer seasons ever, but then he completely melted down in the... What's that?
It was amazing.
Yeah, but then he completely melted down in the playoffs. He gave up several key homers. Now, granted, to very good teams, very good players. But are you at all worried about Clase's playoff performance?
I think he may have hit the wall, kind of like Ben Lively. He pitched a lot last year. And when you pitch a lot, you get tired. And I think one of the things that the Guardians did in the offseason is they went and got Paul Sewald, and they went and got Jacob Junis, and they got established veterans that can help out in the bullpen and hopefully take some heat off of guys like Emmanuel Clase and make sure that he doesn't pitch as many innings and hopefully keep them fresh heading into the playoffs. I think if he pitches a little less, he'll be a little fresher.
Yeah, these 4 guys last year, Clase, Smiths, Gaddis, and Heron, man, that was just like, they called them the 4 horsemen. They were just like about as good a 4-man relief corps as there was. I think they all had ERAs under 2, or if not, they were in the very low 2s at worst, and they all they would come out and you're like, just game over. Like as soon as the first guy comes out in the 6th, you're like, well, we got this. And then, Sewald, great pickup, longtime closer for the Diamondbacks, Mariners, a couple other teams, Mets, I think. I think he scuffled a little bit last year, but certainly has a very high upside to come back and be great again. And then we got, some swingmen down here. Joey Cantello, a potential rotation candidate. Tristan McKenzie banished to the bullpen. They're hoping that his game will work out of the pen, because he probably is not going to be a starting pitcher anytime soon, unless he pitches his way back. Then Jacob Junis, another guy who's on the Royals for a long time. A decent number 5 starter. He could definitely shine out of the bullpen. So this is a really good bullpen. This is one of those, we can get away with 1 or 2 of these guys not performing up to standards if we just kind of can count on these guys, to come in a jam in the 5th or 6th and finish it out. How are you feeling about this bullpen?
I love it. I think it's the best bullpen in baseball. I don't think I'm being biased when I say it. They have 4 or 5 guys that are not starting the year, that are, they're various forms of injured in spring training. Andrew Walters, Franco Alaman, Eric Sabrowski, And they also had Nick Enright, who had cancer, and he's kind of coming back from an arm injury. So they're going to have some help if they do have some injuries.
Yeah, and then speaking of injuries, let's just take a look at some of the guys on the IL who are expected to contribute this year. So we got David Fry. He was just kind of like the super sub last year. He could play catcher, he could play first, third, corner, outfield. Probably play second if you needed him to. But he got Tommy John surgery in October, I think. So he will not be throwing a baseball this year. But they think he can be a DH as soon as May. And, he had a terrific season last year. I'm not quite sure if he's worth a roster spot if he's like a platoon DH. But definitely...
He can really hit lefties, though.
Yeah, it might make sense. Like, I love him as a utility guy if he's, the backup catcher and corner infield and all that. Like, super terrific player overall. Just a little concerned about his value as strictly a DH. He could maybe play a little first base later in the year because, like, I know that Bryce Harper, I believe he got his Tommy John one year in October and November, and he was playing first base by, like, July. And they're basically like, look, Bryce, just don't throw. Just don't throw the ball. I play first base in softball, and I almost never have to throw the ball. Like, maybe once every 2 games or something like that. For what that's worth, first baseman almost never have to throw. But if you do have to throw, you can really take advantage of a first baseman with no ability to throw a baseball. So he's probably just going to be strictly DH this year, especially with Santana and Manzardo and Noel. It's just kind of hard to justify him at first, but we'll see. Anything can happen. And then we already talked about Bieber and Means, the injured aces who could come back mid-year, and that could just be like pick it up to starting pitchers at the trade deadline, and we don't have to give anything up. So that's huge upside.
Really, yeah.
Yeah, but anything can happen when you're coming off a Tommy John. So hopefully, I feel like at least one of them has to be at least decent, but we'll see. Then we also got Slade Ciccone. So he's the guy we got from the Diamondbacks for Josh Naylor. He didn't look good last year, but he was a first-round draft pick a couple years back, and he's got upside, and maybe we can fix him. What do you see out of Ciccone this year, if anything?
I didn't get a good read on him in spring training. He looked not great, and then he got injured. So I think maybe we'll see him try to ramp up in the minors. I think Doug Nikazi in AAA is probably going to be ahead of him, and probably Webb will also be ahead of him. And the other guy I'm kind of excited about is Parker Messick. Mm-hmm. We watched him play in the Futures game. He looked really good. But I think he may have fallen behind a little bit in the pecking order.
Yeah, and then Stefan, he's coming off of elbow surgery. Is there a difference between UCL elbow surgery and Tommy John? I think they're very similar. But anyway, so Stefan was great, and then he got injured, but he could come back mid-year and make the already unbelievably good bullpen unbelievably better. And then Sabrowski also looked terrific last year. He's a lefty, and I would love to see him play a full season if possible. And then Henschie's is out for the year, but he's a very good pitcher, and he'll be back next year. And then let's take a look at some of these minor leaguers. Looks like Dom Nunez and I don't know, Mike Capriz and CJ Kaifus were pretty exciting. Ralphie Velasquez.
I think Kaifus is probably the most cuspy guy. He looked pretty good. He's a very good fielding first baseman. He was going to be more of a lighter home run hitter, but then he developed pop. So he may be interesting. And then if we're talking injured guys, let's talk about Chase DeLauder.
Yeah. Where's old
What do you think of him?
Well, I mean, Chase DeLauder, down here is just like, he's still the 55th ranked prospect in all of ball. He's definitely like just like he just passes the eye test. Like just watch him take like 5 at bats, and you're like, man, this guy knows what he's doing. And he puts up the numbers. He just has like a foot problem, and he just keeps injuring his foot, and it's very frustrating because he could be hitting in a big league lineup right now, but it just has this really obnoxious injury that you're like, ugh. It's very frustrating, but I hope he can figure out what's wrong and come back and be his best.
Yep. I think he had core surgery.
Yeah.
Like a hernia.
Yeah, and then a couple other bubble guys. Juan Brito. If Arias struggles, I think Brito is kind of the next man up for second base. So we actually got Brito from the Rockies for Nolan Jones. So now we have both of them, so that's pretty cool. So Brito looks like a very good hitter, but I think they don't think much of his glove. He might be kind of like a Dan Uggla type, like a good power hitter, not much of a glove, but certainly like a solid big leaguer. Who else is worth talking about? Maybe like Angel Martinez. He was kind of up and down last year, and I could see him being a bench guy that we see a decent amount out of. And then Will Brennan is, I don't know. What do you think about Will Brennan? He's been frustrating. Certainly showed flashes of promise, but I think he's just kind of like, I think the club's running out of patience.
I mean, he's an average fielder. He can field all 3 outfield positions. He's an average hitter. He can hit 260 with 8 home runs if you give him the reins. That's not good enough for right field.
Yeah.
He's a 5th outfielder if people get injured, and he's enough to hold down the fort. But I definitely don't want to give him extended at bats.
Yeah, I mean he does have extreme splits, and he's actually pretty good against righties. So if you use him in a platoon, he can be a decent contributor. But his main problem is he's just not great at anything. He's just kind of like 4 or 5 out of 10 at everything. But he's not like, he's not like 60 or 70 grade or anything like at anything. And I think to stand out, you got to have at least one eye-popping thing. And I think that's why Nolan Jones is getting the job over him. They probably are like similar WAR. But with Nolan Jones' ability to hit for power, I think he's just a lot more useful to the team than a guy without any 1+ skill. But, we'll see. And then, and then, like, a couple youngsters, Nakaji, we're really high on him. Colby Allard looked pretty good, but he didn't make the club, but he might be back. And then, there's Messick and, longtime prospect. Daniel Espino always seems to be injured. I don't know. Any other youngsters you're excited about?
No. I mean, there's guys that are, in single A and double A, but I don't think anyone else is going to be in the majors.
Yeah. So, what do you think of the team overall? How many wins are you thinking? How many, sort of playoff performance do you expect?
I know I said 88 earlier. Actually, I'm going to up it. I'm going to go with 92 wins. I think Detroit is pretty banged up. I think Kansas City, I mean, they've lost a lot of their depth. They lost Marsh and Wright, their backup starters. I mean, they are thin.
Yeah.
And, Royce Lewis on the Twins has already gone down with an injury. They're just praying for help.
Yeah.
I feel much better than I did at the beginning of the spring when I said they'd win 88.
Yeah, now Fangraphs thinks we'll finish in 4th place. They have us only at a 12% chance of winning the division. They do like the Tigers, Royals, and Twins better. Only 25% playoff shot. That feels low. I think we're a club that can always kind of outperform expectations. So we'll see. And then the cherry on top of this season, just want to talk about real quick, Travis Bazzana, number 1 overall pick last year. Everybody's really excited about him. When do you think Bazzana will come up?
I think he'll come up probably, I don't know, like maybe August, September. I don't think he's going to come up early. He's starting the year in Double A. He didn't have the greatest numbers in High A last year. So I mean, if he forces our hand and Gabe Arias is not hitting well and Daniel Schneemann is not hitting well and Juan Brito is not hitting well, like maybe, but that's a lot of things that have to happen right for him and wrong for other people. I just can't see it being any earlier than August, September.
Yeah, fair. All right, so what are you most excited about this year?
I'm most excited about our young starters. I'm most excited about Gavin Williams, seeing what he can do. Logan Allen, seeing if he can bounce back. And I'm most excited about the quote unquote trade deadline where we get back basically David Fry, Shane Bieber, and John Means. I think we're going to win an imaginary trade deadline. It's going to be awesome.
Well said. All right, that wraps up our Guardians season preview. All right, we're excited for this season. See you on the field. Bye bye.